Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine with another episode of 16 in 1975. And this is episode 2. And in this one, I'm looking at the album Fighting by Thin Lizzy. This came out in September of 75. And my journey with Thin Lizzy had been seeing them on Top of the Pops to Whiskey in the Jar, which was okay. It was had a lot of guitar on from Eric Bell, but I didn't buy any albums. But I remember this is before I left school, so unless it was a birthday or Christmas, I very rarely bought anything. And because it took so long to save up my pocket money, so when I got my first job as an apprentice electrician, working across various factories around the Birmingham area, I was picking up about £16.96. Picking up about £16.96, that's very precise, isn't it? Because I never picked up money before. I know exactly how much money I picked up. So I remember it very well. And that to give my parents £5, which left about 11, and then my bus fare and stuff like that. And I can tell you how much it was a pint, because it was 28p a pint, and I was drinking, I'll come back to that. So I had a record to about £2.25, £3.25. So a chunk of your money compared to what you have left. So I've only got £10 left. And then I've got to have my bacon and egg sandwich when I go to the transport cafe before I go to work. And that was about 50p. So there wasn't a lot left. So the reason I'm saying that is I had to really pick and choose what albums I would buy. And so like with my first episode, someone who I met on the bus on the way home says, "Phil, if you're going from the factory and you're feeling really kind of like, you're the noise of the factory, you want something that's louder than the noise of the factory, buy the Budgie album." So I was very select on what I bought. And Thin Lizzy, just before I kind of left, the last thing I really remember, well, there was The Rocker, which I loved. I only knew the single version, but I absolutely love that track. And I didn't buy Vagabonds, didn't know anything about it. And then the kind of standalone single, which I loved, and it's one of my favourite Lizzy tracks to this day, is Little Darling, which is Gary Moore on guitar next to it. Love that. And then thinking that this is the way they're going, they came out with Nightlife, and it was a friend's older brother. He bought that, and nothing resonated at the time from that album. So I kind of thought, well, I'm not going to buy anything by Thin Lizzy because there are other things that I want to get. There was a shop down near a place called the Wheat Chief, where I used to get off the bus. A very tiny record shop, smaller than your average small bedroom in a house. Literally, there's enough room for about any more than 3 people. People's rammed. But they had a central section where because they didn't have much room, if things weren't selling, they had to very quickly make a decision and put them in the sale rack. Even though this came out in September, I think they made a very quick turnaround decision that it wasn't selling, or they weren't going to get any more in. And so they had a central aisle, just about enough room to squeeze round. And this was in there, Thin Lizzy, Fighting, 1975, and it was 50p. And I could do that. I could take a risk. And I think I mentioned before, I also bought The Best of Freddie King for 50p. So I spent £1 and got these 2 albums. Blues music are new to me, so I thought, well, I'll put that to one side. But Thin Lizzy, you see, when you look at the cover now, I know the band themselves thought, oh my God, but they're trying to look like a street gang. I kind of believe that about them. I didn't have I know in American and Canadian markets, it's a different cover, but I mean, it's Brian Robinson holding the chain as if okay, but at the time, I didn't even think anything of it. So I put this on, and this is on the wonderful Spaceship Vertigo label, 1975. Well, great stuff. And it starts with Rosalie. Now, there were two artists in the 70s that people would mine for cover versions because they weren't that well known over here. So Manfred Mann's Earth Band were obviously going through the Bruce Springsteen catalogue because Bruce didn't really mean anything over here. And Bob Seger was another guy who we didn't really know much about in the UK. So bands doing cover versions and, Bob Seger tracks was probably a good thing to do. And so it opens with Rosalie. And I like that song, of course, live. It took on a totally different dimension and stuff. But as I listened to this, and this is a time in my life when work lasts forever because I have to catch the bus at 7 a.m. And I'd had periods after my exams at school. I didn't get up till 10 or 11. We went to see my mate's house and stuff and then have me tea and all the rest of it. Work was setting the alarm at 6, leaving the house at 7 and not coming home till 7. And in between time was just stuff. A lot of stuff I've covered in other videos, which I'll cover as I go through this journey. And this album, For Those Who Love to Live, and then Suicide. It's okay. That's not. I didn't see that. I saw it as a great rock song, and especially towards the end when he says, "Doesn't that make you want to boogie?" And he goes into that extended solo. And this is really where, although I was aware of twin guitar sound from Wishbone Ash, this is where I really connected to this absolutely gorgeous guitar, dual guitar sound from Gorham and Robinson. Wild One, Fighting My Way Back, King's Vengeance, and Spirit Slips Away. There was something very ethereal about that track. It's one of my favourite tracks off the album. And there's, for reference, I'm looking at, this is the 2 CD version, which comes with, I think about 15 bonus tracks. So I had to print that. But I hope you can find one. These double packs, Thin Lizzy deluxe sets are superb. Lots of BBC stuff. Anyway, Spirit Slips Away. An absolutely fantastic song. Silver Dollar. Lovely little boogie from the guitar there, and Freedom Song. And then the song that really did it for me was Ballad of a Hard Man, which is a really hard, menacing, hard rock riff, which I really identified with. Now, I was anything but a hard man, but it was, I think what it did to me was, because where I was working at the time as an apprentice electrician, I was kind of like just out of school. I was probably weighed about 9 stone, wringing wet. I was naive to the world of factories and all the initiation ceremonies, and I just did not fit in at all. And music was something that I really latched onto to almost create an alternative world inside my imagination. And this is before having a Walkman or earbuds. So I wasn't walking around with something or sitting on the bus on the way into work or out, immersing myself into music. I had to come home and put it on. And then I'd play things over and over until aspects of those songs would go in. And then I would use that as my escape pod. So as I walked around a factory or was doing something and, I would hum or play back the songs in my head as if I'd recorded them. And this one was kind of like, although I wouldn't have had the nerve to do it, with these older blokes who kind of like, banter and everything, but, really as apprentices had a really rough time, really. I mean, technically he was being bullied at work, but you wouldn't say anything. It's the 1970s. And I'd come home and just go upstairs and put the music on really loud, waiting for my dad to say your tea's ready. And then I'd come down, eat my tea and go back up and then put the music on again. And this was, again, another one of these albums that gave me hope. It gave me this feeling to it. And it was also that if If I hadn't have bought this, would I have discovered Thin Lizzy? I would. I would have bought Jailbreak like everyone else did, because it just would have done. But I probably wouldn't have bought this. And I've mentioned this before, like doorway albums into a band. When I did my ranking video for Thin Lizzy, this album, I think, was probably my second or third top favourite Thin Lizzy album, with Johnny the Fox #1. Yeah, I think this is the #2. And it's because of buying it and being the first Thin Lizzy album I ever owned. And for that reason, and I've been playing it obviously before doing this video, and I played the extra CD stuff and everything, and it's just a kind of, I was thinking about the fact that we've just had the 1976 box set, haven't we? And I know a lot of people saying it wouldn't be great if we could have the Bad Reputation box set, and we've had the Live and Dangerous one. I would hope that maybe we could have the Nightlife and Fighting box set. That would be the 1974, 75 box set, or even just a Fighting box set. Is there enough stuff? I'm not asking it to be remixed. I think there is, because this is out of print, and there are 15 tracks on CD #2. And the other thing, because it's worth mentioning this, is the UK Tour 1975 disc, which is out of print. And this has got 15 tracks on it. And it is the UK Tour of 1975. So Fighting had just come out. And this has Little Darling on it, which was they finished on. And it's absolutely brilliant recording. So they could have a Fighting box set if they stuck that live stuff on, plus the outtakes, all the BBC stuff. I think they could. But going back to the story, I think this is a wonderful thing. It's the album, a whole band. Brian Robinson is superb. Scott Gore and Brian Downey, who line it. All of them, great storytelling from Phil. And as I say, it's another one of those albums, pivotal albums. It's amazing. All the thousands of things that I've bought over the years, and I can go back to this period. It's a bit like, how many of you like this? You think about an album you bought 6 months ago, 2 years ago, a year ago, okay? Tell me what's on, track 3, side 2, or whatever else, or it's a CD. And I bet you can't, can you? But you go back to certain times in your life, and you can pick an album, and you can almost see yourself putting the needle down on the album for the first time. And you don't even have to get the colour out to know exactly what, track 3 on side 2 was, or the last track on side 2, or whatever. You can see it all. And of course, as a lot of us, when we played these albums, we would, because of active listening, I know not everyone will agree with this, but I would be pacing them down in my bedroom playing music, trying to, move away from the day I'd had. So I'd be active listening, I wasn't just sitting listening to it, looking at the cover. I was pacing them down, playing the music because I'm really loud. And I'd start to pick out favourite tracks, so it would be things like Spirit Slips Away. I need to stick this together, as you can see. And I would start to then look for tracks that I really liked. And I'd go up to the record table and I'd pick up the stylus, move it across and put it back down. Move it across, put it back down. And I did that with so many records, because there would be certain things as I got used to an album that I just wanted to hear certain songs over and over again. And that's what I did. So I just made that up, active listening. But I was physically involved with playing the album. It was actually, as I absorbed it for the next day of catching the bus and going to work. But Fighting by Thin Lizzy, 1975. And there you go. Great album. What do you think of this album? I mean, I know many of you probably weren't even on the planet when this came out. That's okay. I'm just telling this story from where I was and what it meant to me. But if you weren't around, you weren't born when this came out, it's great because you'll be able to hear this for the first time, perhaps. And when you hear it for the first time, it doesn't matter whether you weren't around when I was. It's interesting that the way you hear it, what else you've heard around it, is your story. But it'd be great to hear from those of you who probably were around or whatever. What did you think of this album? And what do you think of it now? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here and for all your kind comments. And for those of you who recently become YouTube members and patrons to support me just that little bit more, thank you so much. And of course, in return, you get access to the Facebook group, which is a private community of like-minded people, and also the WhatsApp group as well, which has got lots of little groups within groups, just for people who support me. And there's lots of like-minded people in there talking about music. And plus there are 2 monthly virtual get-togethers at our own pub called the Now Spinning Arms. And plus we have merch. You'll get to see all the videos before anyone else, and lots of other goodies coming along as well. But remember, music is the healer and the doctor. So take care, keep spinning those discs, and I'll talk to you all very, very soon.